today we're breaking down the Toreando pass of Ronaldo Jr., the way he likes to do it. Now, there's a lot of people that do this type of pass, but I want to take Ronaldo specifically as an example of how he likes to move from side to side and how he forces his opponent to overcommit to framing on one side to then exposing the other side. Okay? So, first of all, what's the pass itself, right? So he used both of the grips. Basically, what people like to do a long time ago is called the bullfighter pass, where you get double pan grip, you put the legs on the floor, and then you try to get your shoulder on your head of your opponent. So you do this, and you finish inside control, right? So this concept is important. The concept of getting your opponent to frame with his legs on the floor, right? So again, the old school pass was to bring the foot to the floor, down your back, foot to the floor, and then moving to the side, and then to finish the pass, I want to get my shoulder to his hip, and then either to do a back step to finish, or to finish in the leg directly, and inside control. Now then they modified it to do it kind of like a half bullfighter, or like a Toreando pass, where you move your legs of your opponent to the side, and then you clear the space for your opponent to get the shoulder to his hips, and then finish the pass. So how can we combine both of them, right? So there's a few reactions that your opponent will do when you do this pass from an open move, right? When you move, he's either going to frame on your shoulders, like this, facing into you, or he's going to do a stiff arm defense, where you move, he's just stiff arming one side to move his hips back, and then bring his guard. Now we can counter it, right? So first, when we move side to side, doesn't matter which side, when we decide to move to one side and we see our opponent is trying to face us to create frames to prevent you from passing, right? Because now his shoulder and his elbows are on the same side. It's going to be impossible for me to pass. If I try to now let go of the grips, he has enough space to regain his guard, right? But we can force him to overcommit to hip escaping and then moving to the other side, right? So when we move, we do this. Why? He frames. Now we try to push his legs to the floor like this to do one big hip escape to regain his guard. So we do it, one, and then he come back. But when he puts his legs on the floor, that's the time for me to move to the other side and close the distance with my shoulder. So when we start the Toreando pass, put his legs on the floor and hip escape. Now I can do a half circle to the other side and close the distance to get my shoulder to his hips. Okay, so let's do it again. We go from one side to the other. So we move one, boom. He frames, puts his legs on the floor to move to the side. Now I jump to the other side, get my shoulder, and then I finish inside. Okay, the other reaction that your opponent can do is the stiff arm defense, but it's the same concept applies here. You force him to put his legs on the floor to expose the hip line. So when I do the same pass, and he's now on his shoulder, moving away, you see the legs are still on the floor in order for him to do a reverse hip escape, and then regain his guard, right? So we get here, the moment he gets his legs on the floor to hip escape, when he moves, so again, go one, he moves, now I can move to the other side, close the distance, get my shoulder to his hip, and secure the pass. So the concept here that's important for you to remember is to force your opponent to put his legs on the floor in order to frame either towards you or away from you to then expose the hip line. The only disadvantage from this position, it's going to be harder for you to stabilize the pass because you have double pan grip. So your opponent can always, no matter your double pan grip, you can always either use the stiff arm defense to keep framing and going back to his guard, or to do a grand reroll and then regain his guard, or turtling and escaping the pass. But because you know that, you can counter it, and that's what Ronaldo does really good. So in both cases, whenever Ronaldo is moving side to side, he's relying on his speed and his aggressiveness to force you to do a mistake and exposing your back. So let's take the first example. For example, I move side to side, and when I decide to do a Toreando in frames, it forces him to put his legs on the floor to hip escape. When he hip escape, he moves to the other side, try to frame. But he knows that in the moment will try to either turtle up or do the stiff arm. So in the moment he does this, and then get his hand over the shoulder, shrug his opponent, and then start attacking the back. Okay? You have many techniques on how to take the back. The specific one that he does, he usually get the hand over the shoulder to keep the opponent turning away to turtle and then taking the back. But what I want you to remember is I want you to keep putting pressure on your opponent to force him to turn either belly down or to turtle, then attacking the back. So let's do it one more time. Come here. So again, you move side to side. So you move, do a Toreando. He frames, you put the legs on the floor for him to move. Now you move to the other side. Okay, when you put the pressure, you're turning him away, then you can get the hand on the shoulder, connect the seatbelt, and then you can attack the back. If you use the stiff arm, the moment you get here, you try to stiff arm, you go away, you can then circle your leg, your hand over, and secure the side control. Or if you just try to use the arm here, you can push it away, and then connect your seatbelt. But force your opponent to turn away from you, because if it's going to turn into you when you're already here, it's going to give you side control. Okay? So usually they will try to turn away to avoid getting either side control or the point. If he does manage to turn into you and get the underhook, you can always do the top spin and finish on the other side. So let's do a few times and then you can do it. Let's reel the back in. So go. 1. Give it a try and I'll see you in the next one. 1, 2.